Hey guys, what's up? This is Andrew Price here from BlenderGuru.com. Now, some of you may remember last week I asked you guys to suggest tutorials for me related to the weather theme, because the month of June is all about weather. Now, many of you requested that I create a tutorial about how to create snow. I'm not sure if that was a joke or not, being that I'm from Australia. However, I've decided to make one anyway. So how do you like them apples? So this is the scene that I'm going to be showing you how to create. Now there's several things in this scene that make up the overall impression of snow. So just briefly, you've got this wavy pattern texture over the entire look of the ground there. You've also got some grass particles that are creeping up from the ground, as well as some tire tracks there, which is quite a hard effect to achieve usually, but I'll be showing you a really quick way to do that, as well as some footsteps as well. And on top of that, you've also got the snow falling on the scene, as well as some icicles there that are forming on the building, and the snow on the roof as well. Okay, so that's a fair few things that I'll be showing you in this tutorial. So that's the finished image that we're going to be creating. So let's jump in now to the starting tutorial file. So I'll just show you what this looks like when rendered. Now this plain material here, that's the default material that Blender applies to everything. So we're now going to be transforming that into the look of snow. Alright, so first and foremost, we want to get the material nailed down. So I'll just show you just a photo that I pulled off Flickr of actual snow. Now if we zoom right in here, you can actually see, I'm not sure if you can or not in the video, but there's glinting lights that sort of reflect off the surface of the snow. Now the reason for that is that when snowflakes fall, they fall at different angles, and some of them actually reflect the sunlight back into the camera, which is why you get that sort of that glinting light effect coming off the surface of the snow. Now we can replicate that effect within Blender by using the specularity feature. So what that does is it takes a lamp in your scene and it basically fakes a reflection off a surface. Now to get that to work, you actually need a lamp to be in view of the scene. Now currently I've got two lamps. I've got a sun lamp and a skylight, but actually they're both actually off camera. So I'm going to create a lamp specifically for the purpose of faking specularity. So with that there, I'm just going to turn off diffuse, because I don't actually want it to light any of the objects in the scene. I just want the specularity. So if we render that now, you should see the exact same lighting, but just this white blob in the middle there where it's reflecting off the surface. So basically at the moment the ground just looks like a big silk plane. So let's go ahead and fix that by selecting the ground and adding a new texture. So what we're going to do is create that noise effect, and we're going to make it affect the specularity channel. So I'm going to turn the noise to 0, the depth of it to 6, so that'll give a nice finer grain look. And I'm going to, in the colors option, I'm going to turn the contrast up to 5 and the brightness down to 0. So that'll really limit the number of noise particles there. And I'm going to turn off color, because we don't want it to color the entire thing purple. We're going to turn on specularity intensity. Alright, now let's just have a look at how that looks now. Alright, now if you zoom in there, you can see that you now have this this fine, that nice look that we want. However, you still got that white blob there. Now the cause of that is that when you add a specularity texture, Blender is basically applying two methods of specularity. It's got the one from the materials right here, as well as the one from the texture field. So we don't actually want the one that's the default one from Blender. So just turn off in the material options, turn the intensity of specularity down to 0. And that will just leave the texture of, just the texture remaining. So that's looking pretty good. What I want to do now is I actually want to make it affect the entire plane. So I want that big specularity effect over the entire look of the snow. So we can do that just by basically setting the hardness to something small, like maybe 3. Let's just see how that looks. Okay, so it's now affecting the entire plane. However, as you can see, looks like the twilight's going on in here. Not The girl movie, the other one. Yeah. Yeah, but it's too bright. So I'm going to turn the specularity down to 0.1, okay, in the texture. All right, so there you go. So it's looking a lot better now. I mean, you can fiddle with that to get it right. I mean, it depends on how bright the lamp is as well. But yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. So what I want to show you now is how to create the look of a tire texture and a footprint texture over the entire look of the plane. All right, so basically, what I need to do first of all is UV map this plane. So I'm going to split the viewport. I'm going to make this one UV image editor. All right. Now let's go UV project from view. So you press U and then press that. And now what I need to do is just make that the right size about there. Doesn't really matter. And then go image new. And then I'm going to set the actual image specifications for that for 1800 by 1800. Alright, so what that does is just created an image there, just a black image, which we can now paint over. So if we now go to texture paint mode over here, what it's done is it's now made the plane black, because it's basically just taking that texture there and putting it over there. Now in texture paint mode, we can actually start painting on that texture that we've just created. So if we press T for tango, you bring up this this sidebar here, which you can actually change the controls of the paintbrush. So if we just start and just drag there, you can see you start painting onto it. The strength is at 0.2 at the moment, which is why it's whoa, what is going on? Hang on. I don't know what I pressed. Okay, all right. No, where am I going? There we go. All right. Yeah, so it was at 0.2. Let's just turn that to 1. And yeah, there you go. You can actually start painting over that black image there. Now I'm going to turn the jitter up to maybe 0.3, just to give it just sort of a rough sort of like a tires has just dug into the ground there. And you just want to give it. Just imagine that a car has driven along this track. Whoa, it's come way too far out. So yeah, I mean, you can really go nuts and just go into a lot of detail. I'm just going to give the rough sort of overview of how to get that tire look. Alright, so that's looking pretty good so far. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is go out of texture paint mode. And you can see over here that what we just painted is now yeah, been put onto the texture here. So we need to save the texture. I'm going to call this tutorial floor. Alright. And what I need to do is add it as a texture to the ground. So we add new, select image, and then just find it on your computer. If you had better organizing than I did, it would be pretty easy. There we go. Right there. Alright. And then set the mapping to UV. Alright. And now what we want to do is we don't actually want that color, as in the black snow, just, you know, we don't want the snow to look black with just these white marks on it. We actually want to use this as a mask for other textures that we want to create the look of the ground underneath it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here, turn off color, and I'm just going to turn on stencil, which enables it as a mask, and RGB to intensity, which actually makes that grayscale instead of RGB. Alright, so now if we just switch to the material, you can see that the texture hasn't actually changed its color or shape at all, and that's just the way we want it. Because what we want to do now is we want to create a texture underneath it, underneath those tire tracks, and that's what's actually going to be showing. That's what's actually going to show as the tire track. Hopefully that makes sense. Probably doesn't. This is the texture that I'm going to place underneath it. So this is just one I pulled off CG Textures of just some tire tracks over some ice. So set this new image to this new texture type to image, and just find that texture. There we go, ice. I'm going to add that, and just for the sake, so it's not too stretched out, I'm going to set it to Yeah, triple the size. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, and the other thing, I'm going to set the normal amount. Just scale that to maybe 0.3, and that'll just give it like a bump map effect, which will look pretty good. And now, if we just render this now, just show you, it should. There we go. So you can see that the black the black and white that we painted onto that texture is now used as a mask, and you've just got that ice texture now showing through, and that's what's actually appearing as the tire marks on the snow. Okay, now the other thing I want to do is I want to actually make it appear as though it's actually dug into the ground. So it's actually, looks like it's been squished and it's the ground is appearing. Now, if you were to model that by hand, that would be excruciatingly painful, and it wouldn't actually look that good. We can actually do this really quickly by using a displacement modifier. All right, so if we go here into the modifier stacker and add a displacement modifier, and what it's asking for is the texture name. So it's going to basically displace this ground here according to the texture that you put in there. So what are we going to use? We're going to use the mask that we just painted. So I'm going to call it, track. Tire track, just so we can find it. There we go, tire track. And now if we press enter, it is completely whack. Now the reason for that is the strength is way too big. So if we just set that to minus 0.05, okay, it's looking a lot better. The other thing you need to do is set the texture coordinates to UV. All right, and that's so that it actually uses the UV unwrapping that we already did. Now, if we press the I there for subsurf modifier, it'll actually use that. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. It looks like it's been dug in there with like a monster truck or something. So yeah, we can set this to whatever you feel, really, whatever you think looks good. That's a bit too much, probably maybe 0.05. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now, if we render this now, just show you what it looks like. There you go. So as you can see, very quickly, you can just create the effect of tire tracks within snow, or I mean, you can use this in dirt, in mud scenes as well. There's many different uses for it. So yeah, really quick and easy. Now the other thing I want to do is just create some footprints. So of course you can do that very easily. Going into texture paint mode again. Now I'm just going to bring up, there we go, just so we can see what we're doing over here. And I'm just going to create some just some white marks just coming away from the camera. That's too big. And I'm going to turn off jitter as well. So just to give the look of some footprints coming across the snow. I mean, you can go into more detail if you like. He's got a big right foot there. Yeah, it really depends on how far you want to go, really. The other thing you might want to do is people generally aren't as heavy as vehicles. So if that white is the same color as that white, then it's both going to be they're going to be both as deep as each other in the snow. So you might want to actually I'm just going to correct my mistake and actually just make it a little bit duller than the actual than the tire track marks. So we just increase that a little bit. There you go. So just making the footprints just about that. That's looking pretty good. And then of course go over here, save your image, and then if we go back to object mode, you can see you've got little footprints there. It's not showing up too well. Okay, there we go. Little footprint marks. Just using the exact same image texture as the tires there. Really quick, really easy. Alright, so now the next thing that I will show you is how to create that wavy texture look, sort of that lumpy, that really gives that snow that look that you really want to go for. Now to do that, what I actually did was I took an image, which I again got off cgtextures.com. Couldn't live without that website. This is one that's taken off a beach, obviously, but it actually works quite well over snow, I've found, at least in my experience. So what I'm going to do is go to the material settings and add a new texture. I'm going to set it to image. I'm just going to find that sand image. Okay. You can find the links for these textures underneath the video, by the way, if you're watching this on Blender Guru. And I'm going to set, basically, just going to turn this off. We don't actually want this texture to appear in the scene. We just want to use it as a displacement modifier. So I'm going to call this wavy, and I'm going to add a new displacement modifier, and let's just type in, whoa, what happened there? I have no idea. All right, wavy, it's an alpha. Okay. Way too much what we need. Set that to 0.01. all right. There you go. So, and I'm going to set the texture coordinates to UV. Alright, so now you've got that nice wavy looking pattern over the entire texture there. Now, the thing about snow. Let me give you a lesson on snow. Snow, in the sort of the humped or the lumpy parts of the snow, it's not actually, you won't actually see that wavy texture over the entire thing. It generally smooths out over the top there. So we actually want to just basically paint out parts of the ground here that we don't want that wavy texture to appear on. Now you can do that really quickly by using weight painting. So if we switch to weight painting now, and if you press T again, you can bring up these options here. First of all, what I want to do is I want to paint the entire thing red. All right. Now what this is doing is it's you're telling Blender which parts of the plane you want the wavy texture to appear on. Okay, so that's why we're painting it red to begin with. So red means maximum wavy texture. I'm turning off subsurf just so it's a little bit faster. You're not all bored to death. Okay, let's just speed that up a little bit. All right, okay, there we go. Red, finally. All right, now what I want to do is I want to make this part here, this big hill, I want to paint that, make it blue basically, so that it's smooth there. So by setting the weight to 0 in these options here, if I just go like this, and just make that blue, and I'll turn off the subsurf modifier. And I'll also make this part right here, I'll make that blue as well. And and also this part here in front of the camera. So it looks like a thermal map from like a war game or something. But yeah, so these blue areas are going to be completely smooth. Now, once you've done that, you need to select, so in this displacement modifier thing here, we need to select the weight the weight paint that we've just done. So if you watch this image over here, just as I select the vertex group that we just created and you click that, you can see you've now got these flat areas just on top, just where we've painted. So that's that'll give some variation to your scene, as opposed to just looking all fake and just everything, yeah, just like that. Okay, so now you've got the wavy texture, you've got the footprints. Now what? What I will do now is, I've planned this. I have. I'll show you how to create the snow texture on top of the roof here. Let's go. All right. So I've got just the image here, just of a rooftop. I'm going to add a new image underneath it, and I'm going to make this blend. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a mask. So basically, I want snow to appear on the bottom half of this roof and sort of gradually just fade out near the top. We don't want snow on the top, so we want to make it look like gravity's just pulled the snow down to the tip of the roof there. So I'm going to select vertical for this blend type, and I'm going to select ramp as well. So what we want to do is we want to tell Blender that the bottom part of the roof, which is this part here, which is that part there, that's the part that we want the snow to appear on. Now we don't want it to actually be painted on the object. So I'm gonna what I need to do is again just select it as stencil. All right, and again, if you look at the material, nothing has actually changed to the roof itself. But if we add a new texture underneath it, such as clouds, as you can see, it's now created the cloud effect just within that that blend. Sorry, the blend text that we just created. Okay, so now what I need to do is just create the look of snow, basically. So I'm going to set the depth to 6. First of all, we're going to set this to white so we can actually see what we're looking at. Alright, and maybe just increase the contrast. Yeah, you can really experiment with this, see what looks right. That should be pretty okay. Let's just have a look at how the scene looks right now if we render it. Hopefully this will look right. Embarrassing if it doesn't. Yeah, that's embarrassing. The blend texture is actually it's fading out towards the edge there. The reason for that is I didn't set the blend to UV because I actually want to. I've actually UV mapped the roof, so we actually needed to use that UV unwrapping that I've created. So now if I just hit render again, you should see. Okay, there we go, much better. So the snow is now at the tip of the rooftop there. Okay, so it's already looking pretty good so far. The only other thing, the few of the other things I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to create some icicles now. So keeping it really simple, because I mean it's fairly fair away, the icicles. You're not going to go into too much detail, but I'm just going to get a cube. I'm just going to shrink it down to about there. Sort of make it longish like that. And then if I press Control R, it's going to create some edge loops. And if you use the scroll wheel, you can actually control how many edge loops you want to appear on the cube. So I'm just going to click there to about that many. And now if you press Control 2, it's a shortcut which will add a subsurf modifier right here. And now I'm going to give it a new material. I'm going to make it completely transparent. Set it to ray trace transparency. And give it an IOR value. Don't know what that stands for. Don't care either. Basically, that'll just bend the light, really. Just sort of make it look like it's reflecting. And in the textures, I'm just going to add a cloud texture. Set the depth to 0. And we actually don't want the texture to appear, so just turn it off. And I'm just going to call this Icicle Bumpy. I don't know how to spell icicle, by the way, guys. Sorry. And add a, where is it? Displacement modifier, and you guessed it, we're going to, there you go. All right. So that's just add a displacement modifier to this cube thing here. And now I'm going to add another subsurf modifier straight after this one. And there you go. As you can see, it's a really quick way to sort of fake the effect of an icicle. You can sort of tone down that strength there if you like. You can, if you're doing like a close-up of it, you might want to go into more detail with this icicle. I mean, yeah, really, that's pretty fine. I mean, yeah, it doesn't really matter that much. So just make it a bit thinner there. All right, so then just scale that down, and then just plonk it around about there, just to the underside of this roof here. I can't wait to read your guys' comments and tell me all the mistakes I've made. Ice doesn't look like that. Snow doesn't look like that. Oh well. I'm doing my best, alright? So I'm just going to duplicate these icicles. And, you know, I'm going to create a few variations. Just make some a little bit longer than others. Like that. So I mean you don't need to go mad with it, but just to cover this entirety here, I mean, if you have if you're not making a tutorial video, you could probably go into a bit more detail and make sure it doesn't look all repetitive. But that's going to do for me. Alright, so that's how to create some basic icicles. I'll just show you how that looks now with the icicles in the scene. What I'll show you next is how to basically add the grass to the scene. That was something I forgot when I was looking at the ground. I forgot what the next part was. Alright, so that's what the icicles look like. Not fantastic. You can adjust the materials as you see fit. Okay, so with the grass. Now, I'm not going to show you how to create grass from scratch. There's a tutorial for that already on Blender Guru if you're not sure how to do it. So I've already created all the particle settings here. I'm just going to activate it in the subsurf, what do you call it, modifier stacker. Yeah, so at the moment it's just all over the shop. There's grass everywhere, and if you rendered it, it would look horrible. So what I will do, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the weight paint tool again, and I'm going to use it to paint the parts of the scene that I want the grass to appear on. Okay, so first of all, if we just started weight painting now, we would overlap the weight painting that we did previously. So I actually need to add a new vertex group. So we click new vertex group there. I'm going to call this grass, and just save that. So now if we go to weight paint now, you should see that it's completely blue now. So we've basically just got a new canvas to just start painting on. Again, I'm going to turn off subsurf so it's easier to paint. And again, we're just going to paint, I'm going to set it to 0.2 as sort of like the maximum weight, like in maybe a bit more. So I'm just painting the areas that I think grass would appear in this scene. So predominantly, I think it would appear just where the tires appear, basically. So where the tires have dug through to the ground underneath, I think you would be seeing some grass there. Probably not in the middle between the tires, not too much. Perhaps a little bit, maybe that's too much. Just a little bit over here. You can, give a little here. Just around the edges if you like. But yeah, now this what this does is it actually also controls the length of the grass as well. So the more weight, so the redder that you make this, the longer the grass is actually going to appear as well. So if I just if I finish that there, now if I go here, into the particle settings, and I go down to vertex groups, if I set the length to grass, you can see that it's now just made the grass appear where we've just painted, and it's also the edges here are quite small, and in the middle there it's quite thick, as you can see. So that's really really quick, effective way. If you wanted to go over with a fine brush, you can just create a few little spots of grass here and there if you wanted to, just to make it look like it's peeking through there. That's looking pretty good to me. If we just hit render now, I think the grass will actually be too tall for what we want. I think I've actually painted it too much. Actually, hang on. First of all, I just need to activate it in the modifier stacker. But yeah, I think the grass will actually be too tall. No, that's alright. That's not too bad. So yeah, okay, so that's looking pretty good so far. What other things? Okay, yeah, the snowflake effect falling onto the scene. Alright, the big one. Alright, so for that, what I need to do is just create a plane. So this is going to act as the emitter. The place where the snowflakes are going to start falling from. Alright, so we're going to add a new particle system, and if you just start doing it now, you can see that all just sort of particles are jumping off the plane by default. So to stop that, I'm going to turn off the emitter geometry, and now they're falling, okay? They're falling too quickly though, alright? So to fix that, I'm going to go down here to the field weights. Alright, I'm going to turn gravity right down to a 0.015. Let's see how that looks. And alright, that's looking pretty slow. I need to increase the lifetime of it, say 250, and I'm going to set the start time to -250 so we don't have to wait for it to generate, and the end time to 250 as well. Alright, so that's, I think we've got the right speed of snow there. I actually found snow looks better when it's actually falling quite fast. I'm not sure if it's like a common misconception with or what cartoons have taught us, but snow generally doesn't really float, at least not what I've seen on YouTube. I don't have a lot of experience, obviously. Now, to create that sort of like that wavy look where it just sort of like wobbles and floats around like it's just doing its own thing, we're going to use my favorite particle setting, the Brownian motion. So if we set that to a point, let's set it to a 0.2. Let's see how that looks. And basically what this does is it creates a sort of like a jittery effect to the particles, and you can see that they're all sort of wobbling around. Actually, are they? I don't know. Not very much. Let's try 0.5. See how that looks. Yeah, I think the faster you make it with gravity, the less of the effect you see. Alright, so there you go. Now we're starting to get the overall look of snow. Okay, so it's just because, I mean, each snowflake's got its own weight. It's got its own little thermal, I don't know, like hitting different wind effects within the scene. So you need them all to do the sort of own little random thing as they're falling. So that Brownian motion really does that for you quite nicely. You can experiment with that. If it's a blizzard, obviously you might want to go nuts. You know, Brownian level 5 or something like that. Maybe not. Maybe it's too crazy. But yeah, you can experiment with those settings. So now to the actual look, the appearance of the snow. Now by default, it will render these particles as halo objects, which I hate. I hate halo objects. There's no control over them, and they don't work well with the compositor. So I try to avoid them at all costs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a separate object which is going to be appearing as the snowflakes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a circle. Add circle. And then down here you've got the options for circle. Because in Blender 2.49, the options would appear in front of you. So you go add circle. How many vertices do you want? It's actually over here in the tool shelf now. So I'm going to set the vertice number to 5. And I'm going to select fill. So that will it'll put that point in the middle there and make it an actual face for you. Now I'm going to call this object, if you just bring up N, where do you type in the name? Object name is snowflake. And over here in the particle settings, I'm going to select object as the appearance, so what it renders as, and I'm going to type in snowflake. Now as you can see, each of those particles are now appearing as that object there. And if we scale it, you can set the size of the snowflakes as they're falling. So that's a pretty quick way to sort of make that effect work. The other thing you might do is give it some initial velocity, some spin value, so that they all just sort of twist and spin in the light. So that when they turn sideways, they sort of disappear. You can experiment with what works well for you. Again, if it's a blizzard, you can go nuts and just make them spin around like crazy. So it just gives it a subtle effect so that they don't all just appear fully in view, but when they turn, they just sort of disappear for a moment. Again, just little things like that can just help the scene sometimes. So yeah, so that's pretty good so far, I think. I think I've covered just about everything. Alright, the other thing you might want to learn also with snow is particularly in this scene with the clouds there, it should be overcast, okay? So to create the lighting so it looks overcast, here you can see some sharp shadows. So if you want to make it look overcast, that obviously has to be a lot softer looking. So to do that, with the sunlight selected, I'm going to select the soft size, going to set that to a 5, and the samples to 4. And I'm going to do the same for this skylight here as well. Maybe I had it the other way around. 5. Okay. Just going to save that. Good old trusty 2.5. Too reliable. And now if we render, so you should be able to see the particles in the scene now. And okay, over here, yep, you've got the new softer looking shadows there as well. The other thing you might want to do with the snowflakes themselves is to actually, I'll do that now actually, is with this with the snowflake we just created, give it a new material but make it shadeless. So that basically, as you can see here, you've got like dark snowflakes. That wouldn't happen in real life. So you can fix that by doing that. Oh, also one other thing, I might just show you as well. Just to sell the look of snow, I'm going to just give it some sculpt painting here. Whoa. And I'm just going to make it sort of look like what is going on? My view is all over the place. Alright. Alright. I'm just going to draw sort of like snow has just sort of drifted into the side of the building and it's just gotten all bunched up. So that is just like that. Just increase the strength a little bit. Depending on the scene you've got, obviously, you might not need this step. It just helps to just sell the image, really. I mean, that's way too much. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, maybe that's too much. But yeah, go nuts with the sculpting. Feel free to smooth it out like so. Apologies if this tutorial has been all over the place, by the way. I've just been remembering things as I've been going along and just sort of whacking it in there. But there you go. That's the general sort of look of the snow. You can tweak the settings as you like. The dot blend file is available for the finished scene there. So yeah, let's just have a look at how that renders. So there you go. Well, that is basically the snow scene finished now. So I hope you've learned something from the tutorial. I'm looking for suggestions for future tutorials related to weather. I know a few of you want to see a tutorial on rain, so that's what I'm going to be doing next week. So stay tuned next week. I'll be showing you how to add rain to that puddle scene that you've all created. So yeah, I'm looking for any other tutorials related to weather. Post it in the comments, and thanks very much for watching.